In this lecture, we're going to be creating tables using HTML. When it comes to building web pages, it's very important to have a solid understanding of table structures. Tables allow us to organize data and content in an organized way. Table data is structured in the form of rows and columns. The intersection of a row with a column forms a table cell. The individual cells contain the actual data. Data can be in the form of text, images, or even video content. This example illustrates the structure of a basic table used to record the findings of a survey that asked respondents to list their favorite sport. Here we have a table with 2 columns and 9 rows, which gives us 18 individual cells. Let's start off by creating this table in a standard HTML5 document. For this, you'll need to open your text editor, and we'll also need to set up the basic HTML page structure as we learned in earlier lessons. Once you have the basic HTML page structure created, go ahead and save your file anywhere on your computer. You can save the file as tables.html. Make sure to put the HTML extension at the end. So by now this should all look familiar, and as you probably guessed, the code block for our table will be inserted between the open and closed body tags. We'll begin by adding our open and close table tags. The table tag also has several attributes. First, we can specify the width of the table. For now, we'll put the width as 100%. We'll come back to the width attribute once we have our table created, because there are different ways the width can be stated. Next, we can set a border for our table. Let's set the border to 1 pixel. And you can increase this value for a thicker border, or you can put 0 for no border. We can also put a border color attribute. And we'll set that to blue. Next, we can specify the cell spacing and cell padding attributes. This illustration provides a visual illustration of what each of these mean. The cell padding will define the amount of space around the cell contents. The cell spacing, on the other hand, will determine the amount of space between each cell in your table. And the unit of measurement for cell spacing and cell padding is also a pixel. Once we've defined these attributes, we can start adding rows and columns. Each row is defined by an open and close TR tag for table row. So I'll create one row to begin with. And inside each row, I can create any number of columns. So our table had 2 columns, and a column is represented by the open and close TD tag. You can insert your content inside the open and close TD tag. So the first part of our table was the headings. So that's what the first row would look like. Now I'll insert the second row. And again, each row had 2 columns. Just enter some data inside these columns. Made a mistake there. So remember, the first column was the sport, and we'll put the sport label in each of the first columns, and then the response in each of the second columns. I'm just copying and pasting. I'm just changing the sport labels, and also the data. And there it is. That's all the rows and columns for this particular table. So with the table created, let's save this file and preview it in our web browser to see the final result. And that's what the table looks like. One thing you may have noticed is the table is the full width of the browser's content area. And this is because we specified a table width of 100%. You'll notice that if we change the size of the browser window, that the table expands and contracts and always maintains 100% of the browser window. Now let's see what would happen if I change the width to 50%. So I'll go back to the source code and just change the width to 50%. And then refresh the page. Now we can see that the table always maintains 50% of the browser's content area. Okay, so with the percentage-based width, the table will always expand and contract to maintain that percentage, the specified percentage of the browser's content area. But what if we wanted the table to be a fixed width so it doesn't expand or contract with the browser window? For that, we would need to change the width from a percentage to a fixed value. So let's go ahead and change from 50% to 500. Now, if you don't specify a percentage, that converts the table width into a pixel-based table width. So 500 pixels will be the new width of this table. So we're going to save the file, and I'm just going to reload the web browser. And now you'll notice that no matter how big or small the browser window is, the table always stays at 500 pixels.